130 million Americans will be fired tomorrow. There's not a damn thing we can do about it. Wrongful termination, as it turns out, can be difficult to prove. So, in this episode, we're going to explain how to identify wrongful termination, what you can do about it, and the things that your boss said were illegal but are actually protected rights. So, I'm Charlie. He's Colin. This is the Unemployable Life podcast. Welcome back.
This could be a fun one.
Damn, I nailed that, dude.
Perfect.
Should we define what wrongful termination is real quick?
God, yes, because I swear, did this happen in your circle when you were working with a lot of young folk? Like everyone talked like they knew the law, they would throw it around.
Dude, I have an entire bit in my miscellaneous talking points that I titled White Trash. You know what? Okay, let's just start with that.
Okay, let's do this.
The people who will immediately lose the moment they step foot in court are the ones who continue to loudly talk about how they're going to sue this and sue that. It's like, bro, you don't even show up on time.
Yeah.
How can you expect you to show up at a 1:30 appointment for your lawyer?
Yeah, they're firing me because of discrimination. Like, nah, Todd, they're firing you because you've been late 39 days in a row.
So, before we get ahead of ourselves, we should absolutely at this point define what wrongful termination is. And I have it here from a lawyer's website. I forget which one off the top of my head, and I'm not going to go through my links right now because I forgot to hyperlink it here. I'll put it here. Wrongful termination is the ending or dismissal of an employee in a way that violates the law or is considered unfair to the employee. This may either be a breach of the company's contract terms or a violation of laws regarding discrimination or harassment.
Okay. This hurts my soul to process. Company values exist so that they can be held against you. That's my hot take.
You're getting heavy, Colin. In order to understand wrongful termination, though, we have to first take a look at what at-will employment means. And at-will is a legal principle where either an employer or employee can terminate the employment relationship at any time for any reason or for no reason at all. So, unless there is a specific law or contracting stating otherwise.
So what gets me about this, too, is that the wording on it, if you don't pay attention to it, can sound positive. At will employment sounds like it's like at will of the employee, and it's a very manipulative way of saying, like, actually we're protecting businesses over the individual.
It's kind of manipulative language because
politicians wrote this.
Oh, dude, I remember it was probably like 15 years ago. I was having a conversation with a guy, we'll call him Frankie, and
Frankie.
He was deeply Republican, trying to convinced me that I was also Republican. He showed me an offer letter, and he's making $11.50 an hour, but he had benefits. I'll give him that. But he was pumped to be making that, and I was just like, "Why though?" He's like, "Well, he was working in Indiana, living in Illinois. He's like, Indiana's a right to work state." He clearly didn't know that all 50 states and DC are actually right to work states. But he was saying this, and I didn't know what that meant. But he was literally selling it to me like, "Well, that just means that you are free to work for whoever, wherever you want." And I was just like, oh, that's really neat. Mind you, I was probably 19 or 20 when he was telling me this, and I was left leaning for sure, but not bought in, right? Which is probably why I'm just slightly left of center these days. Not political here, but for context. And dude, it was so weird because I was kind of sold on it for a minute. And but here's the thing. I was sold on at-will employment while being pro-union.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because that wording is so easily misunderstood that even a well-meaning person can just grab it, run with it, and then that's how it was pitched to me too. That's how I heard about it. I was like, yeah, this is really cool, like freedom, go America, oh yeah. But like, no, it's actually protection for your employer. Like it literally makes it easier for them to just get rid of you.
Jesus.
Now they just have to. Oh God, you're fine. I feel like I'm on Star Wars.
Uno Lento.
But yeah, no, the wording is misleading, and that sucks. It allows all of this confusion so that it sounds like you're puppeting and supporting something good when really it's something that hurts workers. It was everywhere when I was a kid, and now I look at it, I'm like, God, this is a really evil piece of legislation. It's horrible.
And it was designed for your employer. It was not designed for you. Yes, technically you can now leave your employer without a moment's notice, but there was no law stating you couldn't before.
Yeah.
So what is it protecting you from? Nothing from the employee stance changes really under the at-will employment doctrine, if you want to call it that, except the employer's ability to just throw you to the curb with no, or my favorite, no or no good reason.
Yeah. No. And like, it also acts as a bastion against any pro-labor laws for that, because there's already a law in place that would contradict anything you might put in saying like, hey, you know, an employer must have a true reason, like performance related, to get rid of you, or like specific things, and that otherwise it is on the employer to prove it. France does this. France has a system where if I'm working in France and I need to lay off 30% of my team because some dillweed from the US said, hey, we can rehire them out of India for cheaper. Let's just get rid of all of them. They're expensive. If I do that, the French government will investigate and literally be like, so why are you getting rid of this 30%? Is it for real reasons? And if they find that you are just around, you get to pay all those employees their normal wages until they find something else. I think it's like, it gives them like 5 years, 7 years. I forget the law. I don't know. We can look it up. Put a link here. But that would be amazing for us. Because like, being an advocate like for labor, I can abuse the crap out of the system. Hey, Charles, let's make a company, and in the values, let's make sure that we define that, you know, strict adherence to upper management leadership. So if anyone inconveniences us, I can just say, you're not adhering to our leadership rules, so I'm going to have to let you go. And I can legally do that.
And that's where the no good reason comes into play, because that's a bad reason, but it is also no good reason.
Yeah.
That's why it's my favorite. It's a favorite little beat of words. Like, just, it means nothing, and yet it means everything too in situations like this.
Mm-hmm.
For what it's worth, there are 4 instances where an employee cannot be fired under the at-will doctrine.
Okay.
One is as long as it is not breaking a written contract, i.e., e.g., union agreements, collective bargaining agreements, these kinds of things.
Hiring contract even, but you'd have to fight it. Hence the lawyers.
And I was told this when I was working for a construction company in the Midwest by my foreman. He goes, you know, funny enough, now that I think about it, he told this to a guy who was complaining about an ankle thing that he had gotten off of the job, an ankle injury he had gotten off of the job, and he was talking about he was going to get workers' comp for it, right? He's going, oh, I work construction, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, they'll buy it. He looks at him and he goes, Frankie, this company's lawyers are bigger than yours.
Yeah.
And it was a quiet 7-minute drive to the job site after that.
Yeah.
He was just like, oh, fuck. Because this kid was probably 20, 21. Like, he was exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Just a minute ago. And it was just a hilarious mic drop. I loved it. But
it's true, though.
Number 2. An employer cannot fire employees under the at-will doctrine as long it is, let's see here, as what the employee has done has not benefited public policy. This is mostly for whistleblowers.
Okay.
So if you have done something, you've let loose information, and then the public in general has benefited from that, they cannot retaliate against you. They can't fire you. Which actually brings me to the third point, which is as long as it's not done in discrimination or retaliation. And then the fourth point is as long as it was not to avoid duties owed to the employee. So we're talking health insurances, maternity leave, FMLA, that sort of thing. Sort of thing. And it's also worth just punctuating this, that 74% of American workers work under these conditions, which, as we said at the top, was 134 million working Americans right now work on this just paper thin floor.
Yeah.
It's ready to fall out from underneath them at any given time.
And the worst part is that describes so much of our country, but that's another topic. So one thing that I remember...
That's another podcast, sir.
God, yeah.
Another topic. If you enjoyed that video, you think we've earned it, drop us a like and consider subscribing. Check out our merch store. It's on our website at theunemployablelife.com. We have more merch coming we're super excited about. We'll see you in the next one.